The sky above the alien village was dark and cloudy. Cold wind passed through the narrow streets, carrying dust and sadness. A little alien girl stood at the edge of the village. She was smaller than all others, so small that many called her a mistake. Her skin was pale purple, her eyes big and glowing, and her body thin like a branch. The other aliens always laughed at her. Some whispered that she brought bad luck. Some simply turned their backs. Even her own mother rarely spoke to her. That day, the villagers were leaving. Ships were packed. Bags were filled. Families walked together toward the large transport gate. No one told the girl anything. She stood still, barefoot, with a torn blanket over her shoulders. Her mother walked with others but didn't look back once. The girl's lips trembled. "Mom?" She whispered, but no one heard. No one cared. One old alien woman saw her standing alone and shook her head. "You are too small to live," she said coldly. "It's better you stay." The girl didn't answer. Her eyes followed the crowd until they disappeared into the silver gate, then silence. Only the wind answered her now. She walked slowly through the empty village. The homes were cold, the fires dead, food was gone. Doors were shut. She entered her house, but it was lifeless. Her mother's scent was gone too. She sat on the floor and pulled her knees to her chest. Hunger burned inside. But worse than hunger was the pain in her chest, the pain of being forgotten. Why didn't they want her? Was she really a mistake? She stayed there until night came. Then she climbed to the roof and looked at the stars. Far away, across the human border, she saw lights, big buildings, bright colors, and strange machines moving on the roads. Humans. She had heard stories. Humans are dangerous, the elders used to say. Never go near them. But those same elders had left her here to die. She stared at the human side for a long time. Maybe, just maybe, she would find something better there. For the next few days, she lived like a shadow. She drank rainwater, ate cold roots, and hid in empty buildings. She avoided wild animals and flying machines. She didn't cry anymore. She didn't speak. She only watched. And every night, the same human camp caught her eyes. It was not far. Just across the dry field and behind some metal fences. She saw human men and women laughing, cooking, playing music. One human man stood out. He was tall, with short dark hair and kind eyes. He often fed small animals, cats, birds, even a baby alien lizard. He smiled a lot. Not like the cold alien smiles. His was warm, real. The mini alien girl watched him from the shadows, night after night. She didn't understand why, but something about him felt safe. She whispered to herself, "Would he hate me too?" One morning, everything changed. Dark clouds filled the sky again. A storm was coming. She ran to an old metal bin near the human fence. It was broken, but dry inside. She crawled in, hugging her blanket tightly. The cold rain began. It was too strong. Water filled the bin slowly. Her body shook from the cold. She tried to sleep, but her eyes stayed open, staring at the hole in the bin side. Hours passed. Then footsteps. Heavy ones. Getting closer. She froze. A shadow moved over the bin. The top opened slightly. A beam of light hit her face. And then, voice, "Hey." It was the human man. He looked surprised. His eyes widened as he saw her tiny, shaking form. Her lips were blue, her fingers like ice. She hissed softly, trying to scare him. But her body was too weak. He didn't run. He didn't shout. He slowly took off his jacket and wrapped it around her. "It's okay," he said gently. "You're safe now." Then everything went dark. The last thing she felt was warmth. Warmth she had never felt before. She woke up to the sound of humming. Soft, gentle, warm. Not the wind. Not the rain. Not loneliness. She opened her eyes slowly. The world was blurry. The ceiling above her wasn't broken. The air smelled like something sweet and warm, something she didn't know the name of. She blinked again and saw lights, walls, soft blankets covering her body. Where was she? She sat up quickly, too quickly. Pain shot through her head. She let out a weak cry and tried to escape the bed. But her legs were wrapped in a warm blanket and couldn't move. Hey, slow down, a voice said. She froze. It was him. The human. He stood by the door, holding a steaming cup. His voice was calm, kind, just like before. You're okay now, he said, stepping closer. You're safe. Her eyes darted around the room. No cages, no weapons, no one else. Just him. And her. Still, she hissed. It was soft, but angry. The human didn't move. He placed the cup on a table and slowly raised his hands. I'm not going to hurt you, he said. You were cold and sick. I had to help. She pulled the blanket tighter. Her body shook again, not from cold this time, but from confusion. Why would he help her? No one else had. Not even her own people. He sat down far from her, on the floor. I'm David, he said. What's your name? She stayed silent. Seconds passed. Then minutes. The human didn't ask again. He just sat there, looking at her like she mattered. That night, she didn't sleep. She didn't run either. The bed was too soft, the blanket too warm, and the smell of food stayed in the air, teasing her empty stomach. She stared at David while he slept in a chair, snoring softly. Strange creature, she thought. So loud and so kind. Her stomach growled. She climbed down and walked quietly to the table. The cup from earlier was still there. She sniffed it. Sweet. She sipped once, then again, then drank it all. It burned her mouth a little, but it made her chest feel warm. She didn't understand it, but she wanted more. The next day, David didn't ask questions. He cooked eggs and bread and left them on the table. He walked away and didn't watch her. But she knew he was waiting. She waited. 2, then walked up, picked a small piece, ate it, then another, then finished all of it. He smiled from the other side of the room. I can bring more, he said. She didn't answer, but she didn't hiss this time either. Progress. 3 days passed. Each day, David gave her space. He spoke gently, no sudden moves, no loud words. Only soft ones like, do you want more? Are you warm enough? You can stay as long as you like. She didn't know why. But every time he spoke, her chest felt strange. Like a heavy stone had been lifted just a little. On the 4th night, she said her first word. Why? David looked at her. Why? What? He asked. She looked down. Why help me? He took a deep breath and walked to the window. Because someone helped me once too, he said, when I had nothing. She watched him. You remind me of myself a long time ago. She tilted her head. Were you small too? He laughed. Not like you, he said. But I was alone and scared. She didn't say anything more, but in her heart, a tiny spark lit up. Maybe not all humans were bad. That night she slept without fear, for the first time in her life. She didn't dream of cold streets, or angry voices, or running. She dreamed of stars, soft pillows, and a hand reaching out, not to hurt, but to hold. And when she woke up in the morning, she whispered something small. My name is Leary. David smiled. That's a beautiful name. She didn't smile back yet, but her heart did. The sun filtered through the curtains like a gentle golden stream. Leary opened her eyes slowly. This time she wasn't afraid. She didn't jump from the bed. She didn't run to hide. Instead, she sat quietly, her tiny feet touching the soft floor. A strange feeling lived inside her chest, a feeling she had never known before. It was peace. In the kitchen, David was cooking again. The smell of warm bread and something sweet danced in the air. She peeked around the corner. and watched him move. He was humming again. The same soft song. For a moment, she closed her eyes and listened. The tune felt like a memory she didn't have but wished she did. Then something bold happened. She took one step forward, just one, and he noticed that David turned slowly. "Good morning," he said, voice kind and calm. Leary didn't run. She looked down, her thin hands pulling at her shirt. Nervously, he smiled gently. "I made pancakes. I added honey. I don't know if your kind likes sweet things, but I hope you do." He placed a small plate on the table and stepped back. She walked forward slow, unsure, but didn't stop this time. She picked up the fork like she had seen him do. She struggled at first, holding it wrong, but she figured it out. Slowly she took a bite. The sweetness melted in her mouth. Her eyes widened. She had never tasted anything so soft, so warm, so alive. A sound escaped her lips. A tiny, quiet laugh. David chuckled. "That's the first time I've heard that." She looked up, embarrassed, but she didn't hide her face. "I like it," she said. Later, David brought out a small box. "I found something that might fit you," he said. Inside were folded clothes, child-sized. Nothing fancy. Just clean, soft, and warm. She touched the fabric carefully, as if it might vanish. "No one's ever given me clothes," she whispered. He looked surprised. "Not even your family?" She shook her head. "They said I was too small to waste fabric on." David sat beside her quietly. His voice dropped low. "They were wrong." She didn't answer, but she held the clothes close. As the days passed, Leary began to speak more. Not a lot, just small questions. One at a time. "What is that?" she asked, pointing to a photo on the wall. "My sister," he said. "She lives far away." "Do you miss her?" "Every day." She paused. "What's it like to have someone miss you?" David looked at her. "Maybe you'll find out someday." She blinked. "Will you miss me if I leave?" He didn't answer right away. Then he said softly, "I already would." That night, Leary sat by the window. She stared at the stars. "Do humans live in the stars too?" she asked. David sat beside her. "Not yet," he said. "But one day," she nodded. "I want to live where no one calls me a mistake." He looked at her carefully. "You are not a mistake, Leary." She didn't speak, but a tear ran down her cheek. She wiped it fast, hoping he didn't see. But he did. He didn't say anything, just handed her a soft tissue and sat quietly beside her. That silence felt louder than any scream, but it also felt safe. Later that evening, Leary asked a question she had never dared to ask anyone. "Why do you care about me?" David thought for a moment. "Because you remind me that kindness still matters." She looked confused. He smiled. "Sometimes we forget. We grow cold, angry, busy. But when I saw you in that bin, I remembered what it means to be human." Leary looked down. "But I'm not human." He gently placed his hand near hers. "Not touching, just close enough. You don't have to be. You just have to feel." When the power went out that night, the room became dark and silent. David lit a small lamp. Leary didn't hide. She didn't run. She walked to the corner where her blanket was, then paused. She turned around. Her voice shook as she asked, "Can I sit near you?" David nodded. She sat beside him, slowly, carefully, and leaned just a little bit on his arm. He didn't move. He just sat there. And for the first time in her life, Leary felt something deep in her bones. Not fear, not shame, but something soft, something human. The fire crackled softly in the small cabin. Leary sat close to it, her hands stretched toward the gentle warmth. Fire had always scared her. In her village, fire meant punishment, pain, or fear. But this one was different. David placed a few more logs in the stove and smiled. "Warm enough?" Leary nodded. "It's not angry fire," she whispered. "It feels kind." David raised an eyebrow, curious. "Angry fire?" She looked into the dancing flames. Back home, fire was for bad children. They made us stand near it if we disobeyed. David's smile faded. She didn't speak more. She didn't have to. He understood. The days were quieter now, but not empty. They were full of firsts. Her first warm bath. Her first real comb. Her first time choosing what clothes to wear. Her first time laughing without fear. And her first time sitting at a table across from someone who didn't hate her for being small. David made sure she never felt rushed. Every day was her choice. She didn't have to talk. She didn't have to smile. But slowly, she began to do both. Because she wanted to. One afternoon, while David fixed the wiring on a broken lamp, Leary walked up to him with something in her hand. Drawing, childlike, shaky, but full of life. It showed a little alien girl standing beside a tall human man under a yellow sun. Their hands almost touched, not quite, but almost. David looked at it for a long time. You drew this? She nodded. It's beautiful, he said. She pointed at the little alien. That's me. Then she pointed at the man. That's you. But I didn't draw the hand touching. Why not? Because I'm not sure yet, she said. David smiled softly. That's okay. I can wait. Later that evening, something unexpected happened. The communicator on David's wall blinked. He rarely used it. He walked over and answered. Leary stood behind the curtain, hidden but listening. The voice on the other end was cold and official. We received word. Alien patrols were spotted near your area. You're ordered to report if any unknowns are seen. David glanced back where Leary hid. Understood, he said. Voice flat. The call ended. He didn't say anything, but Leary had heard enough. Her heart beat faster. That night, she didn't eat much. She didn't speak either, David noticed. Something bothering you? She stayed silent. He placed a warm cloth near her hand. You're safe here, he said. But she wasn't sure. What if the patrols found her? What if he gave her away? That night she didn't sleep. She lay curled on her blanket, eyes open, listening for footsteps. For shouting. For betrayal, but nothing came. Just the sound of David's slow breathing, and the steady hum of trust. Still growing fragile, but alive. The next morning, David was gone, just for a few minutes. He had gone to collect supplies from the outpost. But when Leary woke and didn't see him, panic hit her like cold rain. She ran to the door, stared outside. Heart racing. Was he gone? Did he abandon her too? No, he said he wouldn't. But so did others. Long ago, she waited by the door. Minutes felt like hours. And then he returned. A brown bag in one hand. A small flower in the other. For you, he said, placing the flower gently on the table. Leary looked at it. Why? He smiled. Because you looked sad yesterday. She touched the flower's soft petals. And suddenly, she cried. Not loud. But real. He didn't ask why. He just sat beside her and waited until the tears stopped. And when they did, she placed the flower beside her drawing and gently drew one more line. The human's hand now touched the alien girl's hand. That evening, as stars began to shine above, Leary walked to David's side. She held something wrapped in cloth. My people give names to only those who are accepted, she said. He looked at her. I never got one, she added. Leary is a word I gave myself. It means left behind. David's eyes softened. But now, she unwrapped the cloth. Inside was a small metal tag, bent and old. I want to change it, she said. Can I have a human name too? David knelt beside her. Yes, he said. She looked up, hopeful. Will you give me one? He nodded. I'll think of something special. And for the first time in her life, she felt like she belonged somewhere. Not because of her blood, not because of her size, but because someone saw her heart and didn't turn away. The sun rose slowly. painting the sky in soft pink and orange. But Leary didn't know it was a special day. To her, it felt like any other morning, quiet, safe, and warm. She rolled out of bed, her tiny feet brushing the floor. David wasn't in the room, but she wasn't scared anymore. His jacket lay folded on the chair. That always meant he was nearby. She rubbed her eyes and walked toward the kitchen. That's when she smelled it, something sweet, buttery, and warm. Then she saw it, a small cake slightly crooked, covered in white cream, with one candle sticking up like a tiny torch. She froze. "What is this?" she whispered. David turned from the stove and smiled. "It's a birthday cake." She blinked, confused. "Birthday?" David nodded. "It's the day someone's life is celebrated. The day they were born." Leary frowned. "No one ever told me mine." "I know," he said softly. "So today, I picked one for you." She stepped closer. "Why today?" He smiled, eyes kind. "Because today is the first time you woke up smiling." Leary stared at the cake for a long time. Her fingers hovered over the creamy edges, unsure if she could touch it. David brought a small hat made of paper and gently placed it on her head. She stared up at him, stunned. He lit the candle. "Make a wish," he said. Leary hesitated. "What's a wish?" "It's a secret hope," he explained. "Something your heart wants." She looked at the candle's soft flame. The warm light danced in her wide eyes. She closed them and whispered something in her mind. Then blew. The flame vanished, but the warmth stayed. She took a bite of the cake. Soft, sweet, like clouds melting on her tongue. She gasped. "It's happy," she said. David laughed. "Cake isn't supposed to be sad." She took another bite. And another, then stopped, looked up, and said something she had never said to anyone before. "Thank you." 2 simple words, but they carried the weight of 1,000 silent years. After breakfast, David handed her a box wrapped in shiny paper. "A gift?" she asked, surprised. He nodded. "Open it." She unwrapped it slowly, her tiny fingers careful not to tear anything. Inside was a small notebook with a pink ribbon tied around it. Leary opened it. The first page had a photo of her sitting by the window, head resting on her hand, eyes full of light. Below it, in big letters, it said, "Leary's first book of life." She looked up, speechless. "You can fill it," David said. "With drawings, words, feelings. This book will never forget." She touched the pages gently. "No one ever wanted to remember me before," she whispered. "I do," David said. "Every day." Later, they sat outside on the porch. The stars were beginning to peek through the fading sky. Leary opened her new book and drew something with a red pencil. It was a heart. Not perfect, a little wobbly, but full. David peeked over her shoulder. "Is that me in the heart?" he asked with a smile. She nodded. "And me," he chuckled. "Looks like we're stuck together now." She looked up at him, her voice quiet but strong. "I want to stay stuck." That night, David made a fire, not for heat, just for beauty. They sat beside it, the flames lighting their faces an orange glow. Leary leaned on his shoulder. "Did you ever think you'd have a daughter?" she asked. David paused. "No," he said. "But now, I don't know how I lived without one." She smiled, a real smile, not nervous, not hidden, not afraid. Just full of joy. Full of light. Before going to bed, she placed her notebook beside her pillow, and she added one last line at the bottom of the first page. "Today, I was born. And I wasn't alone." The wind changed. Leary felt it before David even knew. She was outside, drawing in her notebook, when a strange scent touched her nose. Familiar, but not welcome. Her small hand stopped moving. Her pencil dropped onto the wooden porch. She stood up slowly, eyes scanning the hills beyond the trees. She didn't blink. Because she saw them. Figures, shadows, moving slowly. Tall, thin, with glowing eyes just like hers. Aliens, her kind, her people. But she didn't run toward them. She stepped back. Her heart whispered, no, not them. Not again. David came out, carrying 2 cups of warm fruit tea. He saw her face. Leary? He asked. She pointed with a shaking hand. They're here. He followed her gaze. 3 aliens were walking toward the edge of his land. David's jaw tightened. He placed the cups down and stood in front of her. Go inside, he said softly. But I'll talk to them. She didn't move. She didn't want to. But she obeyed. From behind the curtain. She watched it all. The 3 aliens stopped at the gate. One of them stepped forward. Tall, cold eyes. Wearing the robe of a leader. And beside him, Leary's heart stopped. It was her mother, the woman who had never hugged her, never defended her, never looked back. Now she stood tall, proud, and expressionless. David greeted them with caution. Can I help you? The leader spoke first. We are searching for a missing member of our group. David didn't flinch. No one's missing. Here. Then the woman stepped forward. Her voice was sharp. She was small, quiet, unfit. David's eyes narrowed. The leader added, we have orders to return her if she is alive. Return her? David asked. To the same people who threw her away? She is property, the leader replied coldly. Not family. David's voice turned firm. She's not your property anymore. She's under my care. Leary watched from behind the curtain. Tears welled in her eyes, but not from fear. From rage. She stepped outside before David could stop her. Her small feet made soft sounds on the wooden porch. The aliens turned. The leader's eyes widened. There she is. Her mother said nothing, not even her name, just stared, like she was looking at a broken dish left behind in a storm. Lir, I stood tall. Why are you here? Her mother's lips moved slowly. Because they told me to come. Leary's chest tightened. Not because you missed me? Silence. The other aliens exchanged glances. David stepped beside her. You don't have to go. The leader raised a hand. You will give her to us, or there will be consequences. Leary stepped forward. No, she said. The aliens blinked. I have a name now, she added, and a birthday, and a life. The leader's voice turned sharp. You belong to your people. She looked him dead in the eyes. I belong to the one who stayed. The wind blew harder. The leader's robes flapped in the air. Her mother's face didn't change. Still cold. Still blank. Then in a voice barely louder than the breeze, she said, You are not mine anymore. Leary whispered back, You never were. David stood like a shield. The aliens stared at them for a long moment, but the girl didn't flinch. She didn't look small anymore. She looked like someone who had survived the storm. Without a word, the leader turned away. Her mother followed him, not looking back again, and this time it didn't hurt, because Leary wasn't the same girl they left behind. That night, she sat beside David by the fire. She didn't cry. She didn't even speak. She just leaned her head on his shoulder. After a while, she said softly, They didn't come for me. They came to take control. David nodded. You stood your ground. I didn't feel small, she whispered. You weren't. She looked up at him. Am I yours now? He smiled, eyes full of pride. You always were. The cabin felt different now. Leary stood in the middle of the small living room, holding the metal name tag David had made for her. It was simple, shiny silver, with her new name carefully engraved, Leary Hope. Her fingers traced the letters again and again. Hope. Not mistake, not too small, not burden. Just hope. A week had passed since the aliens left. No patrols returned. No messages came. No threats followed, only peace. But inside Leary, something bigger was happening. Change. She had been called many things in her short life, most of them cruel. But now, she was being called something new. Love. She looked out the window and saw David working in the garden, planting tiny seeds in the dirt. She had never seen anyone care so much for something that couldn't speak, but maybe that's why he cared. Because he knew that even quiet things could grow. That afternoon, David surprised her. "Put on something nice," he said. "We're going out," Leary blinked. "Out?" He smiled. "To the town. There's a small celebration. Humans do that sometimes when the season changes." Her heart raced. She had never walked into a human crowd before. What if they look at me strange? "They might," he said honestly, "but I'll be right beside you." She nodded. That was enough. The town was alive with color. Banners waved in the wind. Music floated through the air. Children ran through the streets with painted faces. Leary stayed close to David, her small hand gripping his sleeve tightly. At first, people did look. Some stared longer than others, but no one pushed her away. Some smiled. A few even waved, and when a small human girl ran up to her with a ribbon and tied it around Leary's wrist, she didn't pull back. The girl said, "You're pretty." Leary almost cried on the spot. They reached a small booth where an old woman gave out books. Leary picked up a story about stars and families lost and found. The woman looked at her kindly. "You must be David's daughter." Leary's heart skipped. David didn't correct her. He smiled and nodded. "Yes, I am lucky to have her." Leary couldn't speak. She just looked at him, eyes wide, soul full. He looked back and whispered, "I meant it." When they returned home that night, Leary sat by the window, holding the book and her name tag close. She turned to David and said, "Can I ask something strange?" He raised an eyebrow. "Stranger than eating cake with your hands?" She giggled. Then said, "If I had been born human, would you still have wanted me?" David stood quiet for a moment, then walked to her. Kneeling in front of her, he gently cupped her face and sighed. "Leary, if you had been born a tree, a cloud, a star, anything, I still would have wanted you." Her eyes filled with tears, real ones, happy ones. Then he said it, without fear, without pause. With truth, "You are my daughter." Leary's lips parted. She had dreamed of those words. She had imagined them in silent nights, whispered them in her sleep, written them in her notebook without ever believing them. But now they were real. She didn't answer with words. She leapt into his arms. He held her tight, strong, safe, and she sobbed not from sadness, but because she had finally found the thing she thought she would never have, a home. Days passed. Then weeks. I grew stronger. She laughed more. She helped in the garden. She even learned to read stories aloud to David in the evenings. One day, she placed her old alien name tag, the cold, number-coded one, into a small wooden box and buried it under the tallest tree behind the house. She whispered, "That girl is gone now," and walked away holding her new name close. The wind was soft that evening. Stars twinkled above. And David sat on the porch, watching the sky. Leary joined him, laying her head on his shoulder. "You think other little alien girls are still out there?" she asked. He nodded. "Maybe. What if they're waiting for someone to care?" "Then maybe," he said, "you'll be the one to find them." She smiled. "Maybe I will."